The Outermost Crusade is on its way, where you go and battle other nebulas. So in this video, I'm going to talk about everything we know about the Outermost Crusade, including some information provided to us by the developers. So stick around for everything I know at this moment in time about the Outermost Crusade. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and this video has been sponsored by the makers of Infinite Galaxy, and they have very generously provided me with some information about the Outermost Crusade, which is coming up very soon for a small number of nebulas, which I assume will be the test run. Now, my nebula is not in that group of the initial ones that are going to get a look at this, and I'm okay with that right now. The first time that people go through, I'm sure the developers will make a few adjustments and tweaks, but if you are on your way in or you want to prepare, then all of this information I think is going to be really, really valuable. And of course, you want to do well in this game mode because, hello, baby, alien cubes are how you advance some of these metals, and the buffs from these metals are really good. I talked about that in another video. Cards up in the top if you want to check that out. But we know alien cubes come from the Outermost Crusade and maybe some super value packs, but we're all going to want to advance this stuff as much as we can to get these awesome buffs. So let's get into what I know based on what the developers have shared about the Outermost Crusade. And the first thing that you might be wondering is who can actually play in the Outermost Crusade. Nebulas will be selected and matches will be made, and they're going to try to match them up in a way that's fair. Now, I don't know how exactly you go about doing that because, I mean, obviously players all have different power, but if you just look at the nebula as a whole, there's also alliance powers, and every alliance in your nebula, as long as you have over 60 million power in that alliance, can go and can battle in this new game mode. Now, I will make the argument that if you have a bunch of farm alliances, you will probably have a little bit of an advantage because, like, look, warships are warships. If you can have some extra warships and stuff them into stacks of huge amounts of ships that are fighting, it's better than nothing. But, that's going to be a separate idea. We'll talk about how you strategize for this once we've actually seen the whole thing. So you'll be fighting against entire other nebulas, which means you might run into high power players. You might run into low power players. You're going to have to work as a team to fight your way through. And the matchmaking will be based according to power to try to find close competitors. And this is not going to happen in your nebula or their nebula, but a separate map where you do battle. So you don't have to worry about somehow securing your nebula here. And I think this is actually like really, really important. Other games, you actually do need to secure your kingdom or nebula from attack from an enemy, and there's strategic ways to go about that. Don't worry. Your nebula is not getting invaded. You're not invading anybody's nebula. It's going to be a separate space. And there's no limit, I'm told, to the number of players that can actually join. So the more the merrier. The bigger your nebula is, the more active you are, the better. Which brings me to a kind of an interesting question around matchmaking. Because matchmaking, yeah, you can look at power, but activity freaking conquers all in my experience. Activity is the name of the game. So when will this begin for your server? I'm told that it will open successively. So they'll do a wave of people that go into that game mode. And then it sounds like roughly every 4 weeks, a new wave opens up and they send folks in. And obviously the frequency with which you enter into this new game mode depends on whether or not you're going to suffer real losses. And I think initially they might have been thinking that, yes, you will suffer real losses, but at this point, they're erring on the side of probably no, you won't, from what I can tell here. So even the repairs that you do will not actually use resources, which is very interesting. So I was mentally and emotionally preparing for losing a bunch of warships. I thought that would be the case. There's still a huge advantage to having warships, okay? You probably still can repair your warships. I don't know for sure yet. So speed ups might still be very, very relevant, but you don't need resources, which is definitely nice. But this new game mode is kind of a separate map. And when the event is over, any damaged flagships are actually going to be automatically recovered. So I think that's kind of interesting. So it's kind of a separate map, kind of like how the Galaxy Summit works. And that event is going to last a total of 2 days. Technically, it's 1 day for matchmaking Okay, so we'll probably see something in the event screen for matchmaking, and then one day for the actual fighting. And like, when do you enter is entirely up to your team. I would assume the second the map opens, boom, you're in on the action. But it could be that you need to coordinate a time when you have everybody on, because the reality is, like, let's face it, when you fight in this game, like, you've seen it in the Galaxy Summit, right? When you fight in this game, the bigger stack of fleets wins. So maybe you need to pick the time where everybody's active. And what are you doing in this new game mode anyways? You are fighting for control of some very specific objectives, the Quantum Steeple and the Void Barrier, to get higher scores. So I think you're going to get points for battling enemy ships, and also when you own these crucial structures, right? Like how you have in your own nebula, there are some really crucial structures. I assume it will be very similar to how you've got the Imperial City, except obviously no buffs and all this other crazy stuff, but there could be a sequence of PvE objectives you have to conquer in order to make it, to capture these things. It could be that there are no defenders, like the Imperial City final phase when you're capturing it. There's nothing in here, and you actually just fight other players when you fight for this. We don't know yet, okay? But as soon as I know, I'll let you know. My hope would be that there's a little bit of PvE and some PvP, a little bit of mix in the map, you know? You got to do both things. I think that would be kind of cool, but we'll kind of see how that plays out. So all in all, what are we talking about here? This is going to be a huge brawl where your entire nebula can battle against the entire enemy nebula. Do we know whether or not alliances can fight in each other's stacks? In other words, can we have multiple alliances sort of group up when they're fighting things, or do they have to be separate? Can you accidentally hit members of your own nebula? I don't know. I bet you can. I assume you can. How will the scoreboard work and look? All of that stuff, as soon as I know how it goes, I will release that information on this channel for sure. And if you're wondering, okay, like, Chisgule, what are the preparations that I make? I feel like there's a couple things that are really important. Number one, save up your repair speeds. It sounds like we can repair warships. You're going to want to be able to go and repair them to get them back to fight, especially if it doesn't cost resources. Also, I would train lots of warships, as long as you are at the highest tier you think you could get to for quite some time. I have been waiting to get to tier 10 before I spend really any meaningful amount of speed ups on shipbuilding, and I think it's reasonable if you do the same too, if you're in it for the long haul like I am. So I've got my research center at 29 on its way to 30. I got to CC 30 recently. It was a freaking massive amount of resources, okay? But I finally got there, and very soon, in fact, probably in another video in the next day or two, I will go in, I'll finish this up, I'll go and train my first T10s. I'm so freaking hyped. I will do that research. I'm just a little bit drained on resources right now, so teching up, I think, is going to be really, really important as I struggle to actually get to the tech I want to show you, my frigates. Now, I also think that a crucial preparation is getting your warships and flagships actually into fighting shape. So that means improving your crew. That means doing the optimizations you're going to do around your flagships for your outfitting. And I don't know if it's going to be a one fleet at a time operation, or if the map is going to be big enough that we can use multiple fleets. I have been building out so that we could potentially use multiple fleets and be in multiple places. That is my hope, is that I get to use my full arsenal, okay? I can use my cruisers, I can use my destroyers, that there's value to having each of those different types, and to be able to have all of them out in space at the same time, I think would be really cool. But that could be hard to control. I don't know. Until we know exactly how that goes, I suppose it makes sense to just double down for now on one really good fleet. And the reason I say that is that it's good for Summit, and it'll be good for Nebula versus Nebula. That's probably the better play. But if you have any thoughts based off of this information on how you would prepare, leave a comment down below. I'm eager to see it. I'll be showcasing when we actually do make our way into this game mode, and when any other new information is provided. So subscribe if you haven't already, so you can find out exactly when that all goes live. And until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. And personally, I am really hyped to go head-to-head against another Nebula, hopefully in the next month or two.